All right, welcome everybody to another exciting episode of Under the Dome. I'm your host, Alan Ulrich, here with the somewhat still alive Bob Rose. He had a rough Halloween. It sounds like. How you doing tonight, Bob?
I'm hanging in there. And for those of you under the dome and by you Blitz fans, my apologies for that. It's all on me, not Brendan. I was literally the Walking Dead. From Wednesday to Monday, basically. We canceled 2 reschedules. Didn't have a post game show. I had to call off twice at my other job. I had to push back a surgical consult. I have been a mess, but what's left of me is here right now. So,
well, I can understand why you called off the post game show, because if you would have just talked for about 15 minutes, you probably would have matched how long the time possession the offense had Sunday against the Rams. That third quarter was unbelievable. When I did my good, bad, and ugly, talked about the turning points in games. And I really said it wasn't a turning point because the Saints were never in this game. Mm-hmm. But if there was a turning point, it was Kamara's fumble immediately after a nearly 10-minute drive to start the third quarter. And basically the Rams, they just played a game of keep away. We decided we're just not going to let you get the ball because maybe they don't trust their secondary. I don't know. But their attitude was, we're going to do ball control and just run this clock, and your offense will not be able to pull off any kind of miracles. And it worked. I don't really want to talk much about this game.
Fine by me.
I mean, there really isn't much to talk about because it's a disturbing trend. The Saints basically showed what they've been showing every game on the road this year. They've given up at least 100 yards to a rusher every game this year on the road. And against the Bears was 200 yards total rushing. And the Rams could just move the ball at will. You never got the impression the Saints were really stopping them at all. And I don't know why on the road this has been happening, because they haven't been giving up 100 yards at home, and the secondary plays pretty good at home. It's just when they get on the road, it's like missing maybe that one last day of practice. I don't know what it is, but the defense just isn't the same, and it's concerning. I mean, I don't know how to explain it, because you're looking for some kind of consistency. You're looking to see, okay, we can't really stop the run at all. That's why these teams run on us. But they show they can at home. You're not being beaten on the road by a superior running team. So what is your explanation for that? Or do you even have one?
I have none. There's a lack of talent on both sides of the ball. That's especially evident when you play a team like the Rams. The team gets this is the closest thing I can pinpoint. Coaching has been abysmal. You and I have pointed that out in our separate good, bad, and uglies more and more in recent weeks. Does that necessarily mean, and I saw yours and I know you read mine too, neither one of us are calling for a coaching change right now, because that's a little bit absurd, but that doesn't absolve Kellen Moore and Brandon Staley specifically from heavy criticism. And no more so will a coaching disparity reveal itself is when you're on the road. And Sean McVay and his assistants, they're a good staff anyway. But the number of times Moore and Staley have been grotesquely outcoached pretty much every single week this year. But I think it really stands out on the road. And on the road is when you have to kind of ratchet up your preparedness. Not so much motivation, because I've said this many times. These are NFL players. They shouldn't need a coach to get them motivated to play a game they get handsomely paid for. But you still have to be better prepared, better organized. And think on your feet a little bit, much better as far as in-game adjustments and stuff like that. And those are the three areas where Moore and Staley have failed miserably this year.
And I rewatched some of that game just to look at some of the things that we did offensively, but I didn't look at some stuff some stuff we did on defense. And the thing that stood out to me the most, and I think this is the trend I'm noticing on the road, the tackling is abysmal. A lot of players are throwing shoulders instead of wrapping up. I wrote in my good, bad, and ugly, the Rams had 177 total yards rushing. And I said about 150 of them, I would not be surprised, were yards after contact. They would get these guys in the backfield, and they would either blow through the hole or they bounce it up to the outside when nobody was. And, so that's a discipline problem.
Yep.
So along with poor coaching, we're seeing a lot of bad football play from the players. And I think those two things combined, because if you have good players but a bad coaching staff, they're still going to make the fundamentals. They may not adjust very well, but this team's not even doing the fundamentals right on defense, on the road, especially against good teams. And there were a lot of times, one of the big touchdown passes to Puka Nacua, which I knew was going to have a big game. But one of the big touchdown passes he had, Reed was so late in coming over that, Kool-Aid McKinstry got beat, but Kool-Aid's looking for help over the top. And Reed's not there. And I don't know what he was doing, honestly, because you watch the All 22, because I pay money for the NFL Network, and I'll look at All 22. Reed is just like, I can't see what he's looking at, but he's just standing there, and all of a sudden he had the oh shit moment when he saw Nacua going past McKinstry, and the ball's gone by that point. So now he's got a haul ass to go cover over the top, and it's like, that's your job. You're in a cover two scheme. Your job is to take away the top. And he was just not paying attention. But the thing that was getting me, and I really want to shift over to the offense. The thing that was getting me was the mental breakdowns by Trevor Penning, by Cesar Ruiz, and our third of the usual suspects, Juwan Johnson. I read, and I want to get your thoughts on this, and I promise we're not going to stick on this game all night, but I want to get your thoughts on this. It was a 4th and 2 play. They're going to run Taysom QB power. Some fans are out there on social media saying, why are you running QB power here? Let's just see what Shough can do in 4th and 2. I'm like, 4th and 2, QB power is the play I want to run. That is like the play, because you can't run the football. Let's run Taysom. He already had a 29-yard run, which was the longest run of the whole season.
Yeah.
But he already had a big run. If he gets a hole and gets the blocks, he's scoring. So I'm more interested in getting the score here, or at least getting the first down. So Shough's got 4 more opportunities to do something in the red zone. But for some reason on this alignment, he had Foster Moreau on the left side, I think. No, the right side. On the left side, he had Juwan Johnson. And it's a pull. So you got the lineman pulling one way. The hole opens up. Juwan Johnson just has to seal the edge, the backside, which That's not happening. Why would you
No.
do that? And a defensive end, no less. Why not flip the two? Because Foster Moreau just runs right to the end zone with nobody to block. The safety wanted no part of that.
Mm-hmm.
Flip the two. Let Juwan Johnson run like he's going to run a pass pattern.
Mm-hmm.
And have Foster Moreau block on that end. Or hell, go get a friggin' lineman. Grab Brad News or someone like that, make them tackle eligible because you're going to block a defensive end. That play goes for a loss because of poor personnel usage. And it was a good play design. And I think that, talking about the coaching problems, that's another thing that Moore keeps consistently getting wrong is his application of personnel. You and I have talked about that. Get your thoughts on this.
I 100% agree with everything that you said. And yeah, that I have highlighted that too, as far as one of Moore's, I'm not even going to say shortcomings. I'm going to call them red flags at this point in the year. Because, okay, early on, you're still learning your personnel. You're learning what they do best, what they, where they struggle at, and theoretically, you're adjusting your game plans, you're adjusting your play calls, you're adjusting your personnel and situational packages accordingly. This team is getting worse at all those things. Mm-hmm. And like you said, folks, Taysom Hill is on this team precisely for these moments.
Yep.
If you keep shucking the game, you're basically telegraphing to the Rams what you're going to do, that you're going to throw the ball. Because as you said, Alan, for the last month, this team cannot run out of base personnel. So, okay, you keep shucking the game. All right, hey, you're going to throw the football. You haven't been able to protect Shough well all game long. Right. And although he has made several nice throws, I thought Shough had a pretty solid game, by the way. But
I did too.
Although he has made several nice throws, you're basically now in goal line situation. So the safeties are up, the corners are playing press, something that Shaheed, Olave, Cooks have not been able to escape from. Juwan has not been able to escape from. So I completely agree with you. I bring Taysom in on that play. I probably call the same kind of play, but it's like you said, it's always going to be QB power. So the key is picking up the backside there, and making sure that if he doesn't keep going wide off tackle, that he has an area to just tuck the ball up and bull forward for 2 yards and an inch. And you didn't do that. Penning missed his block too. But if that's Foster Moreau rather than Juwan Johnson, I think Taysom at least has a shot to get to the first down marker. And maybe he still doesn't pick it up, but it gives him a fighting chance. With Juwan, you basically just emptied all the bullets out of your chamber with that personnel package.
Yeah. And the thing too, if you look at the play from the backside, which you see in the broadcast, the hole's there. In fact, the hole is all the way to the goal line. He's probably scoring because I like Taysom one-on-one with a safety or a cornerback any day of the week, even at 35 years old. That's probably a scoring play because Ruiz actually made a great block. And
he did.
I don't know if Fuaga was in there still or not. I know he had sprained his ankle. I'm not sure if he was in there on that play because that was top of the fourth quarter. But anyway, whoever was the right tackle handled his guy and fought. Like I said, Foster Moreau ran like a Texas route, ran right to the safety, and he was standing there. He turns around like, "Oh, he got tackled? Shit!" Because I'm making sure he's clear all the way through. I know Jack Stoll also had injured his ankle.
Yes.
That's your other blocking tight end. So that may have been the reason why Juwan Johnson was in there. And if Juwan Johnson was in there and if Stoll was injured and Fuaga was injured on that play or before that play, I could kind of understand why there wasn't an extra lineman in there. But still, you needed you needed a jumbo package. You needed
Mm-hmm.
blockers because everyone knew fourth and short, you're going to run the football. You're not going to
Mm-hmm.
do play action and throw it. Um, and you got to execute, and they just couldn't execute. Um, so I put up this question from Anna. Do you think Kellen Moore bit off more than he can chew as head coach?
And I could see why so many people are saying that right now because that's certainly appearances. But I'm not ready to condemn him to that yet. I think that I think Moore and the staff deserves a grace period. They deserve this year, the draft, the off season, and the beginning of next year to get it right. Now, if you're still seeing the same things by quarter of the way, third of the way, halfway through next year,
Mm-hmm.
uh, then frankly, you make a move mid-season again.
Yeah.
So again, just like we both said before, we'll give them a grace period, not a complete pass, but we'll give them the grace. We'll acknowledge the grace period, but not without the heavy criticism that frankly is much needed on both sides of the football right now.
Yeah, it's hard for me right now. I was pretty frustrated Sunday. In fact, I stayed off of Twitter on Sunday until somebody called me out. I said, look, I'm doing a 24-hour rule because I'm going to say some shit that I really shouldn't say. Not
Right.
that I'm angry that they lost because I expected a loss. I'm more angry at their performance in a
Yes.
loss. That's the difference. I expect them to lose because they're under talented. I expect them
Mm-hmm.
to lose because the Rams are a much better team, much better coach team, much more experienced team than what the Saints have. Like I said, I expected Puka Nakua to go nuts. I expected them to have trouble stopping the run. I did not expect 16 minutes total of
No.
offensive possessions, 40 plays compared to 77 plays. I didn't expect that. Um, I thought Tyler Shough played a solid game for the possessions he had.
Mm-hmm.
I thought he threw some passes I haven't seen a Saints quarterback throw probably in a good 2 to 3 years. Um, that pass, this is another thing, fans love to criticize. That pass that he threw to Cooks on after the Taysom drive, when it was 3rd and 9. Okay, Shuck, now you got to go in there and bail our ass out because we ran the same plays too many times. Shuck dropped back, threw to Cooks. The cornerback baited him, tried to jump the pass, missed it, and Cooks caught the pass for a 10-yard completion. And I'm reading the usual suspects all sitting, oh, look at this terrible pass. This is the kind of stupid pass you do. And people like me or people who love Shough are saying, dude, Drew Brees used to make a living doing that,
Oh yeah.
fitting in tight windows. That was an NFL throw. Yeah, he was lucky, but it's an NFL throw. I'm of the opinion that's a throw you got to make. You got to be able
Mm-hmm.
to make as an NFL quarterback. As a rookie, you probably get it picked off. It probably wasn't the best place to go with the ball, but he made the completion.
Yep.
And that was the thing I noticed throughout the whole game. Every pass that was thrown was right there, either at the numbers or at a place where the defensive back could not get it until the end of the game, of course, when he threw the interception.
Oh, and the interception was hideous. But he's trying to make a play. You are in desperation mode, and he's a rookie. That's a rookie mistake. Yeah, and it's 4th down too. He hit 4 or 5 slants. Sharp throws with the guy on the move. Hit him on the run. He hit 3 or 4 real nice outside patterns.
That throw to Chris Olave.
It was gorgeous.
On the run, he squared up and let it go.
Mm-hmm. Am I ready to anoint him just yet? No, not even close. But I saw some things I like. I saw some things that we've never seen from Rattler. And I'm now hoping that we see a natural progression where he's in. There's going to be speed bumps, But where he gets better, where he learns, where he starts to develop some confidence and comfort, in whatever the hell it is that Moore wants to run offensively.
Well, and that's why I brought up Rattler at this, not Rattler, Shough at this point, is because when Anna's asking if Kellen Moore bit off more you can chew as head coach, on one hand, I'm like, okay, so you had Spencer Rattler, you knew his strengths and weaknesses, so you're going to call a certain kind of game. But you now have Tyler Shough, who you should have seen in practice enough that you could have called a certain kind of game that emphasizes his strengths, but you didn't. And that's part of the reason why you went 4 straight 3-and-outs before you finally got something going.
Mm-hmm.
That's frustrating because
the quarterback that Kellen Moore scouted and handpicked for his offense too, by the way.
Yeah. I mean, I expected at least a couple of quick throws, and not on third down, but a couple of quick throws to kind of get him in rhythm to begin with, because that was the other thing I saw that Shough looked good at. Once he got into rhythm, and we used to see us with Rattler too when they would do the hurry up and the no huddle. Once Shough kind of got into rhythm, he's putting that ball in places and pushing the ball down the field and getting the offense moving. Unfortunately, Kamara fumbles. But when he did have opportunities to play, he's getting the offense going. And I'm like, okay, he doesn't look like a rookie. He's going to make rookie mistakes, but he doesn't really look like a rookie. He looks like a guy who has at least been studying film, looks comfortable in the moment, doesn't look overwhelmed, not staring down receivers, not staring down the rush. I was excited about that. I want to see if he can carry that over to the next game. And it seems like, going back to Anna's question, Kellen Moore gets questions and he says, yeah, we need to do a better job of that. Like, you didn't run the ball enough against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You just started to throw the ball like crazy. And he said, yeah, you're right. We need to do a better job of that. So what I'm going to do in the next game is to call like 10 running plays in our first 4 possessions. And when we go 3-and-out, regardless of the down and distance, I ran the ball. So I did try and make an effort to run the ball. I mean, that's what it felt like. And I was just like, oh, God, come on. You got to have a feel for how this game is. And I swore I wasn't going to do this, but I'm going to compare you to Sean Payton. Sean Payton had this ability, even though he would call stupid plays, at times he had this feel for the game. And he knew, especially in those first 15 plays, what he was going to run, how the defense was going to react to those plays, and his adjustments maybe were things that he was going to set up for later on. Yep. And I feel like Kellen Moore just kind of looks at his play sheet and just stares at it like, that might work, regardless of the down and distance, regardless how the defense is playing anything. He's just going, that might work, that's not going to work. And then calls it accordingly. And that's not the feel of the game, It's like you study film, but you didn't really figure out their patterns or their tendencies. I mean, is that how you're seeing this?
Yeah, and I honestly, that's kind of always the way I felt about Kellen Moore as an offensive coordinator. Even going back, to his days with the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas, he had all kinds of talent there, wide receiver, Dak Prescott on the offensive line, for a short period of time, even in the backfield. When you're watching a Cowboys game, though, and McCarthy got all the heat. Kellen Moore got 0. And the head coach is going to get the brunt of the blame, and McCarthy's an offensive guy, so I get it. But I always said at the time that Kellen deserved more of the heat, because you watching those Cowboys teams, and I think Kellen was there for 4 or 5 years. It was a lot, and go back and watch, folks. It was a lot of what you see with the Saints now. Now that those Cowboys offenses had more talent, but No rhythm. No ability to make adjustments to what the defense was doing well or not well. Awful situational. The Dallas Cowboys kept getting eliminated in the first round of the playoffs because
Yeah.
of awful situational football. So,
Mm-hmm.
this is something that we have seen repeated through now 9 games this season.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's my big fear with him is I don't know how that's going to get better because this is a carryover for 3 teams. This is a carryover from Dallas to San Diego Chargers, Los Angeles Chargers now, and even to an extent with Philadelphia, because Philadelphia did get criticized for the problems the team had figuring out the balance between running the ball and Saquon Barkley all the time and getting the ball to the receivers. Now they still have that problem. The fans are still critical of, the lack of a passing game, and I kind of chalked it up to Jalen Hurts from the standpoint of, and people have criticized me for saying this, but I don't think Jalen Hurts is an elite quarterback. I think he's a solid starter, above average starter, but he's not in the category of a Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, those kind of guys. He's more in that second tier of quarterbacks, and which is not a bad thing. That's the other problem you have. People react like, oh, well, you think he sucks. No, it's not a category of you're either elite or you suck. It is a category of there are elite quarterbacks, there are good, solid quarterbacks, they're the average quarterbacks, then you have just the crap,
Yeah.
And the crap quarterbacks are the ones you're always looking to replace every year in the draft. So I'm that is a red flag for me as well. I'm really concerned because I want to see how he evolves from whatever we have with Rattler. And if we end up drafting a quarterback, how does he resolve that with a young, impressionable quarterback you're trying to develop?
Yeah.
Don't know. Okay, so today was a trade deadline. A lot of moves today. A lot of things moved around. Saints made 2 trades. People wanted about 4 to 5 more, but they did get 2 trades at least. Before we go to the Saints trades, the blockbuster trade, Sauce Gardner for 2 number 1s from the Indianapolis Colts. I think they way overpaid for that.
Yeah.
Even Marshawn Lattimore in his prime, I don't think was worth 2 number 1 picks. Now they're 2026 and 2027. And they went to the Colts, who the Colts feel like they were a cornerback away from being the AFC champion or representing the Super Bowl. Any trades really surprise you?
I can't say that. I mean, the Jets being the Jets, they have all these high, number 1 draft choices. Get them for a couple years. They still suck for every single one of those years.
Yeah.
So they deal the draft choices to pick high in the draft again and just do the same cycle all over again. Mm-hmm. That's just the Jets. The most surprising thing was Gardner. I didn't necessarily think Gardner was going to be moved, but again, nothing with the Jets surprises me. The biggest surprise though was the fact that he pulled in 2 first-round draft picks. By the Colts, who are having a good year, but they're this year's Minnesota Vikings. They're a fraud, 100% fraud.
Well, they got handled pretty good Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
So did the Packers, by the way. That shocked me. But my biggest surprise was the teams that didn't make trades. The Chiefs didn't make a trade. The Bills didn't make any trades. The Steelers didn't even make any trades. These are teams that have ideas that they're going to go ahead and be in the AFC Championship or at least making a playoff run. And yet they didn't try to address any of their weaknesses. Now, Shaheed was linked to the Steelers for a while,
Mm-hmm.
linked to the Bills too. Um, the Chiefs were supposedly interested in Alvin Kamara. They were interested in Brees Hall from the Jets. They had several teams that they thought he was going to go to. But they didn't make anything. They're going to go pretty much with the roster they have. And I think the Saints getting rid of Penning for a future 6th-round pick, that was the direct result of Joe Alt getting hurt again Sunday.
Yes.
Because the Chargers have no tackles. So they're going to make a move for that. Mm-hmm. I've always felt I would like the deadline for trades, because the season's now extending to the 2nd week of January, the trade deadline to be after Thanksgiving, like the 1st week of December. Because by that point, you're in the thick of the playoff run. You're ready to make that run. Now you've got some injuries or you need some key holes filled. I think that's a better time. But were you surprised by any of the except for the Colts, the non-playoff teams making a run or making a trade?
I mean, again, people made a big deal about the Jacoby Myers trade. Yeah. Jacoby Myers is an above-average receiver. He doesn't. He's not a game changer. He doesn't automatically flip the where'd he go? Jaguars, right?
Yeah.
He doesn't immediately make the Jaguars a legitimate contender or anything like that. The Eagles, Howie Roseman being Howie Roseman, getting Jalen Phillips, and didn't they get a cornerback too in there?
Mm-hmm. An injured quarterback, but they got a cornerback. They got Jair Alexander.
Yeah, so I mean, the Eagles are just being. I don't even know why teams pick up the phone when Howie Roseman calls. It's just beyond me.
And they get the players, and they have like a 1, a 2, 2 3s, 2 4s, mm-hmm. 2 5s. They're just stacking up picks too. So you get players and picks.
Yeah, and
that's what happens when you have a lot of depth on your team.
Uh-huh.
You can start. Okay, I'm gonna give you this guy and my 6th if I'll take your guy and you give me your 5th.
Right.
So then he stacks them that way, and teams do it.
Hey, who I was surprised did not make a move for a linebacker was San Francisco.
Yeah.
With Fred Warner being out, and that was the team. Them and Buffalo were the teams that I had specifically highlighted that, hey, one of these teams, the Bills or the 49ers, might just be willing to give up a 5th or a 6th round choice for Pete Werner, not Demario Davis.
Mm-hmm.
But Pete Werner, just to shore up their run defense.
Yeah.
Some place like that. The Chiefs looking for a running back didn't get one. That surprised me. The Bills always say, well, the media always says the Bills are looking for receivers for Josh Allen. But the Bills never get receivers for Josh Allen. So, while that on the surface might seem surprising, if you look back every single year Josh Allen is there, I guess it's not that surprising because it's every single year.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's funny, too, because so for entertainment purposes, I go and visit other teams, fan pages and stuff on Twitter, and the comments. All you have to do is take out the name Mickey Loomis, take out whatever player it is we're talking about, take out the head coach. The comment is basically the same for all 32 teams.
Yeah.
They're all idiots. They're all stupid. We're getting fleeced. That's a common phrase. We're getting fleeced. We got screwed. I can't believe even the Eagles. I can't believe we traded for an injured cornerback. Howie is losing his touch. Um, you know, it's this kind of stuff. It's the same thing. We have a stupid head coach. You know, that kind of thing. You
Mm-hmm.
know, we're going to be one and done in the playoffs because we're idiots. That kind of stuff. It's all it's it's all the same comments. So it helps me deal with Mickey Loomis and the criticisms of the Saints, even though ours are probably more legitimate than say Bills fans getting pissed off that they can't get a receiver. Um, just seeing it's the same people, it's the
Mm-hmm.
same kind of fans on every team. Um, so since you brought up Jacoby Myers, the Saints got a fourth and a fifth round pick for Rashid Shaheed. Do you like the move? Would you have liked to have seen another receiver traded? How do you feel about this?
First of all, I have been saying for weeks, and you know this because I've said it here on my show. I've
Mm-hmm.
written it. That despite the rumors that we have been hearing the last 2 weeks, the Saints aren't going to move Rashid. They're asking way too much. They're looking to re-sign Chris Olave. Well, here I am, sitting here. All due respect to Nick Underhill, John Hendricks, Triplett, the rest of them.
Yeah.
I've been the one consistently saying not both. Either Shaheed or Olave were going to get moved. I never wavered from that. I kind of felt like it was going to be Olave because
I
he
did
would
too.
bring the higher return. I thought that
Mm-hmm.
they would move Olave because they don't want to pay him. They shouldn't want to pay him as a number one receiver. And then look to get their their featured receiver in the draft, re-sign Shaheed this offseason. I think probably what ended up happening, because and folks, this is why they did not ultimately move Chris Olave. I guarantee you there was conversation. They didn't get the offer that they wanted, and at
Yeah.
the end of the day, they figured, okay, we're guaranteed to have Chris Olave under contract next year, no matter what else happens. We may not be able to re-sign, even if they wanted to, and we don't know whether they did or not. We may not be able to re-sign Rashid Shaheed. And at 1-8 right now, what the hell are we holding on to?
Mm-hmm.
It's better to get something for one of these guys than absolutely nothing. And don't give me, well, they would have got it a compensatory pick. A, that's not guaranteed. Not if you spend in free agency. And
Which they
B,
probably will this year.
Right, because they'll finally have the money to.
Mm-hmm.
So, to get the fourth and fifth for Shaheed, I will take it and run. I hated to see Rashid Shaheed go. I love him as a player, but again, you look, A, what the hell are you holding on to? B, you could lose him. Will probably lose him at the end of the year without any guaranteed compensation coming back to you, and you're still stuck trying to rebuild a receiver room with no picks to do it. So I like the move.
So I posted this on Twitter, and I'll go ahead and repeat it here. The Saints are built kind of haphazardly because you've got several, you know, um, several different coaching regimes, philosophies employed in here. You have Sean Payton's, because you still have Cesar Ruiz, you still have DeMario, you still have Cam, all these people. Okay. You've got a receiving core that is built around pushing the ball down the field when you had a quarterback like Derek Carr under center. You're dinking and dunking with Rattler. You have a rookie quarterback who can push the ball down the field, but he's still a rookie quarterback. They need big physical receivers because that's the kind of receiver Kellen Moore is used to. Think the AJ Brown. I'm trying to
CD
Lamb. CD Lamb. I'm going to blank on the Chargers receivers.
Well, they had Keenan. They drafted Quentin Johnson when he was there.
Yeah. So, you're used to having big receivers, big physical guys. So you've got that. So you're working your way through that receiving core to get the kind of receivers you want. The defense has been built around a 4-3 concept. You hired Staley. He wants to run a 3-4 hybrid, much like the Eagles run. You don't have the personnel for it. You don't have the nose tackle for it. You don't have the defensive end edge rusher, stand-up edge rusher. You don't have those kind of guys. So you got to rebuild that team too. Your linebackers are undersized for that kind of scheme. Looking at you, Pete Werner. So those are guys that you have to move off of to bring in guys that would better fit your scheme. So yeah, your team is 1-8 because you've got a lot of wrong pieces that need to go up, need to be gotten rid of. You want to run a power running attack between the tackles, but you've got speed backs. You don't have the power inside runner. You don't have a Saquon Barkley. You don't have Ezekiel Elliott, who was there when Moore was in Dallas. So you got to change that too. So I get all that, and that's why I'm fine with moving a lot of pieces. I like Shaheed too. I like Shaheed better than I like Olave.
Same.
So now Shaheed has done a couple things in games that made me wonder if he was really dialed in. The Rams game most recently, he had his cornerback beat. That pass is thrown on a dime, and it looks like you stopped running. Yeah. And the excuse you gave was, well, I lost the ball. You're a kick returner. How'd you lose track of the ball? Right. The ball's going to a spot. You should have a landmark you're going to. So, I miss Shaheed, but at the same time, I'm like going, how focused were you really into this season? Maybe you'll be better in Seattle, where you feel like when your number gets called, you're going to be more involved, and your number's going to get called a little more often. I don't know. So, okay. Hemisphere says, Bob, I looked at the Saints roster. They did move Valet in Shaheed's spot, so I'm expecting to see Valet more. That's another positive for me. He'll get more snaps, but will he get more targets?
And that's the question. And that's one of the other reasons why I thought I was certain and have been saying one of the Olave or Shaheed was going to go and had to go. Because you traded Kellen Moore traded 2 picks to get the big-bodied receiver that you said you wanted on this roster, and you throw to him literally. This is not even an exaggeration. Look at the numbers: 1 to 2 times a game, tops. Yeah. That's it. So without Olave or Shaheed, now in this case it's Shaheed, without one of them there, logic would tell you, okay, this is going to be more opportunities for Vele. And, with the slants that they were running with Shough at quarterback last week, that's right up Vele's alley. So I would love to see it. Hemisphere, I hope you're right. I pay zero attention to the online depth chart. I realize we have nothing else to go by until we see it in the game. Yeah. But hopefully it transpires because Brandon Cooks, nice little veteran piece. Still can play, still can contribute. But Brandon Cooks is not the future of this receiving core. Devon Vele is.
Yeah. And you also traded, people have kind of forgotten about this, but you did trade for
Jalen Polk. Yeah.
Thank you, Jalen Polk.
Yeah.
I kept wanting to call him something else. But you traded for him. He's on IR, but you would think the plan is, because Kellen Moore was the one who pushed that one. The plan is, and he's a bigger physical receiver. That's a guy I want to see if I can do something with next year.
100%.
And it didn't cost you anything. It really didn't. I mean, people, you trade for injuries. You traded a 6th-round pick,
right? Essentially
for this guy. And he was a former 2nd-round pick. So that's the transition part I think we're going to see in this. Now, we kind of joke, but Trevor Penning got traded as well right before the deadline. I feel bad because I really like the kid, but he had
Hmm.
no home. He wasn't a good left guard either.
No.
He struggled at tackle. I thought right tackle was his best position, and he
Yeah.
struggled at that too. Um, it's his feet. He has very heavy, slow feet, and the problem is he's got a nasty disposition, and he's got a lot of upper body strength and a lot of power. But his feet just are like two concrete blocks, and he has trouble with speed. Um, if this was football 30 years ago, he'd probably be an all pro,
Hmm.
but not in this kind of level of game. I think they will hemisphere. He says, I hope they get a wide receiver in the draft. I expect at least one. I hope they get a tight end in the draft.
Oh my God,
I'm
please,
tired
yes.
of seeing Juwan Johnson out there. You know, I think this offense wants to go through a tight end, but they need to find a tight end they can go through. Honestly, I mean, it's mind boggling. Juwan Johnson does the best he can as an undrafted former receiver blown up to a tight end.
Yeah.
But he's not an impact tight end. He's not a playmaking tight end. He is just a guy. Um, so I wish they could trade for one. Nobody's trading those things. You might be able to trade for an old one, but God, I'd love to get a tight end in the draft. And I
Hmm.
say that every year as I watch
Hmm.
Aronde Gadsden light up for the for the Chargers this past Sunday. Um, were there any other players you wanted to see move? I know we mentioned the linebacker Werner, but was there any other players you thought would be moved or were hoping to see moved in the
Hoping,
trade?
yeah, yeah, and you know exactly who I was hoping would leave.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I know that Ruiz was heavily rumored to, ironically, Seattle and Clint Kubiak, who ended up
Yeah.
getting a receiver instead. Uh, but for the Saints, moving Trevor Penning actually makes more sense. Now,
Mm-hmm.
Penning
You
and
weren't going to
Ruiz
bring
have,
him back. He
right, exactly.
You didn't pick up his option, and you weren't going to bring him back.
Exactly. And here's the thing to remember, folks. And Alan and I say this every year around the draft, uh, or free agency, but it's worth saying now. Just because you don't like someone, you don't like a player, and you say, you know where I'm going with this, and I forgot to wear I'm surrounded by idiots shirt.
Yeah.
Um, just because you hate this player or that player, you say, yeah, he sucks, he's awful, trade him. Well, if he sucks and he's awful, what makes you think anybody else is going to want him?
Yeah, I know.
Here's why the Chargers traded for Trevor Penning. And you said it a minute ago, Alan. They just lost their tackle Alt for the season. Well, Alt's not the only one gone. Slater is gone for the season, too.
Yeah.
Harbaugh is going to put Trevor Penning at tackle. Going up against the Pittsburgh Steelers and Watt this weekend, and in a conference with the Bills and all that speed at edge, the Chiefs and their speed at edge, the
God
Broncos
help
and their
Justin
speed at
Herbert.
edge. God help Justin Herbert. That's why the Chargers traded for Trevor Penning and not Cesar Ruiz. Believe me, I wanted to see the human turnstile that wears a 51 jersey out too. But like you said, Alan, you weren't going to re-sign Penning after this year. You have Ruiz under contract. If you do look to move him, you can do so without the pressure to move him at a deadline this offseason. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. I don't know. But again, just like going back to, you compare Shaheed and Olave. Hey, at least you have Chris Olave under contract in next year.
Mm-hmm.
At least you have Cesar Ruiz under contract next year. So, if you force if you literally give away your Ruiz and you lose Penning at the end of the year, well, guess what, folks? All you people that are saying, God, I hate that the Saints have to draft a lineman, or I hate that the Saints do drafting linemen every year. Well, the reason why they do draft one is because they have to. You lose Penning, you lose Ruiz, like him or hate him, and I hate him. Like him or hate him, guess what? You got to draft a guard. I don't know what Dylan Radins' contract is. I want to say just this year. Torricelli Simpkins looks like a player, but we haven't seen enough of him to know that yet. Simpkins, Radins, one of those two, probably both, are going to get their shot to fill Trevor Penning's spot, and you have the 51 turnstile at the other end. That's it. That's the devil, at least. So, that you were never going to move both Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed. You were never going to move both Trevor Penning and Cesar Ruiz. So you moved one at each. You got your picks back. You got probably the best value possible for both players. And, going back to Pete Werner, I wanted to see Pete Werner traded too. He wasn't. Again, just because I want to see him traded doesn't mean anybody wants to trade for him. We all heard the Alontae Taylor rumors. I can't tell you how many times I've seen, the Colts were interested in Alontae Taylor, before they made the move to get Gardner. And then the Loomis haters come out, God damn it, Mickey Loomis, you're an idiot. You don't know what you're doing. Well, if you're the Colts, let's ignore the paying price for a minute. If you're the Colts, who would you rather have, Gardner or Alontae Taylor? I like Alontae Taylor a lot as a player, but give me Gardner every single Sunday.
Because one's an outside guy and one's an inside guy. I mean, that's your draft. You're trading for a starting outside corner versus a slot corner and hybrid safety that you're really using for run defense. I mean. And Hemisphere, I'm glad you brought this up because I was just getting ready to go there. They're going to address guard and center in the draft, but on the other hand, need skill positions on offense. Maybe they addressed offensive line and free agency. That's the issue. You have 5 picks. One of them's number 1 overall pick. We just ran through a list of holes, and I haven't even finished them all.
Edge rusher, linebacker, nose tackle.
Possibly a safety, running back, tight end, wide receiver, probably a quarterback. I've run through 9 positions. You only have 5 picks. Now you've got 7, but you possibly have 8 because let's assume they get the compensatory pick for losing a Debo because they're not going to. One of the pleasant surprises of this season so far is Quincy Riley not only manning that spot, but doing a good job. They're targeting Kool-Aid a hell of a lot more than they're targeting Quincy Riley.
Yeah.
And Kool-Aid really isn't a bad corner. He makes mistakes, but, people are like, why is Kool-Aid even out there? When's the last time he made a play? Dude, he made 2 of them last week against Tampa.
Yeah, he is this close to making a lot of plays. I know. Go ahead.
He's have his good games. He's have his bad games because he's a second-year player and he's not Marshawn Lattimore, but he's a good cornerback because he sure as hell ain't Toy Cook, Johnny Poe. Go down the list. Fred Thomas. Ken Crawley, Johnny Patrick. He's none of those guys either. He is what a typical cornerback, 2nd-round pick, starting his first season looks like out there. And I mean, if he didn't make good plays, then I would be like, yeah, you're right. He sucks.
Right.
But he makes good plays too. He makes bad ones, but he makes good ones. And unfortunately, his bad ones come in bunches, just like some of his good plays come in bunches. But
they do, and a lot of the catches against Kool-Aid, and that Rams game is a perfect example. Kool-Aid is this close. It's either a case of he's got to turn over his other shoulder. He's got to locate the ball better. That's where he struggles the most is locating the ball. He is there in coverage. He's not getting. You just listed off a bunch of corners, and certainly I could list a few more, more than a few more. He's not getting embarrassed out there. He is just getting. He's not. He's not
thinking too
finishing
much.
plays.
Yeah.
He's thinking too much. It's inside of his head. I agree with you. I think he's going to be just fine, and I am pleasantly surprised. I'm ecstatic actually at what I'm seeing out of Quincy Riley.
They're not penalty machines.
That too.
You know, how many times when Paulson Adebo, who I thought was a good cornerback as
Hmm.
well, but how many times Paulson Adebo got called for pass interference, holding, just go down the list, illegal contact, and some of it I was like, that's borderline, but he was still getting flagged for it. He got that reputation. We're not seeing that much now. I'm probably cursing our defensive backs, but
Right.
we haven't seen a slew of flags come out for pass interference all the time by the same people. So yeah, I just we have a transition going on. We have to get better at a lot of positions. So my attitude with a lot of these, these trades, I just want picks right now, and I think we can make some moves in free agency, address the guard position in free agency,
Hmm.
address probably some of the defensive positions, maybe linebacker in free agency, things like running back in free agency. One of the guys I wanted, one of the guys that didn't get traded, um, Brees Hall, he'll be a
Yeah.
free agent next year. I wouldn't mind, as long as you're not breaking the bank for him, I wouldn't mind bringing him in, as a inside runner. I'm not saying he's the best, but I think he's an upgrade, and probably a player in free agency much more along the lines of a I don't want to call him this because Jacoby Jacob, Josh Jacobs was a
Josh Jacobs.
much better running back than Brees Hall. But I think he can play kind of that Josh Jacobs kind of role in this offense. Yeah, so I know you got your monitor off right now, Bob, but Hemisphere says, which is why, as bad as they need to see what they have in Shough, they need to look at Stutzman Ford on defense just to see if they can play a 3-4 base defense. I think we are
100%.
seeing. I think we are seeing more Stutzman. We're definitely seeing a lot more Stallbird out
Yeah.
there.
Well, what we're doing, we're seeing Stutzman more on base downs, or at least running downs, and then Stallbird in on passing situations. Not as much as I want to for either, basically because Pete Werner is still on this team. But as we get closer to the stretch run, maybe even coming out of the bye week, which is in 2 weeks after this week, Sunday against Carolina, that might give Brandon Staley, that is, and those defensive coaches an extra week to install Stutzman as a starter, to install Stallbird as these are your packages, Isaiah. Danny, you're going to be our starter. Pete will fit you in where we can. Kind of what we're doing. What we're doing with Stutzman and Stallbird now. I would basically love to see those snap counts reversed. But like you said, we have been seeing more of Stutzman. We have been seeing more of Stallbird. The starting safety job is Sanker's. The starting corner job is Riley's. So we're beginning to see. Now that Penning is gone, I'm hoping that we'll see Simpkins in at guard more often. So we're seeing these young guys now finally.
Yeah, I think you're going to see Rad News in there to start next week. This week against Carolina. I think you'll see Simpkins as the third lineman active, where they'll rotate him in. Now I'm interested to see, since we traded Penning, Fuaga's not playing Sunday.
Right.
He has a high ankle sprain. Who is going to play? I guess the kid we drafted from Dallas is going to be the left tackle.
Yeah,
the right
it'll
tackle.
be Richards.
Richards, yeah. So I'm curious to see if they bring in any other linemen from the practice squad to kind of back up some of the players, because going in with 6 offensive linemen, it'd be kind of tough on
Mm-hmm.
us, that for Sunday. You usually like to have 7 or 8
Mm-hmm.
available. So it'll be interesting to see how they handle the practice squad this week, because they technically have 2 roster spots open now that these guys are gone. Yeah, Lante Taylor, I think his market kind of disappeared once the Colts took Sauce Gardner, because I don't think anyone was really willing to trade much for him. I think the Colts had the best offer out there. And like you said, they had the option. Okay, am I going to take Gardner versus Taylor? I'm jumping at Gardner. So once that market's gone, now you're trying to go, okay, where's Taylor go? And who's going to give us a day 2 pick for Taylor? Excuse me, for Taylor. And I think that market was pretty much done.
Yeah.
Dallas traded a first round pick, and is it Maisie or Mozzie Smith, the
I
kid from
think it's
Michigan,
Mozzie, but yeah.
Who is a first round bust for them?
Mm-hmm.
For the Jets defensive tackle, whose name just I just
Quinnen Williams.
Quinn. Okay, good, because I almost said Quinn and Jammer, and I knew that wasn't it. Quinnen Williams, thank you. What do you make of that? I mean, first off, Maisie Smith getting traded that soon. Is he really a bust? I mean, is it just he didn't fit the Dallas scheme? What the heck?
I think it's more that he didn't fit the Dallas scheme. Because coming in, I remember watching his film a lot. Basically, because that's the year that the Saints drafted Brzee. And Smith came off of the board 2 or 3 picks before Brzee, and I thought that if Smith was still on the board, that the Saints would very much be in play for him. The thing about Mozzie Smith is he's what the Saints need right now. He's a run stuffer. He's an absolute run stuffer, but he's not gonna he's not gonna fill up the stat sheet as far as pass rushes, sacks, or pressures. And and Jerry Jones has always been Jerry Jones. He wants the pretty flashy things.
Mm-hmm.
Mozzie Smith is not a pretty flashy thing. Quinnen Williams is. So this is just more Jerry Jones delirium. Thinking that my Dallas Cowboys just need this, and I'm in the Super Bowl. Well,
yeah, he came on social media yesterday, or some interviews yesterday, and was talking about how he made this big trade, but he wasn't going to tell anybody what it was until the next day. And the big trade he made was obviously he gave up a first rounder in Mozzie Smith, and the higher first rounder he has of course the 2. He did. Not like he gave up the Green Bay first rounder. So classic Jerry Jones. So yeah, I felt the same way when I heard Mozzie Smith was on the thing. At first off, I was thinking, man, the Cowboys are just going to cut him. So if they cut him, I'm jumping on that, because they're not stupid enough to just try and trade him for, like we did with Penning. We'll give you a 7th round pick in 2030 for this guy just to get him off your hands. But it's just one of those things where I'm just like, yeah, we could have used that guy because he's a run stuffer and he's a nose tackle, and he, I don't know what it was in Dallas. It wasn't making him work, but I'm willing to grab him. Hemisphere asked this question, and this is a question you got. It's a legitimate question because it has to do with leadership as well as what these guys can still do. If who on defense can we build around? Cam Jordan will retire. DeMario may not come back. I think both of them will get the golden parachute from Mickey Loomis, salary cap wise. So knowing who will take their spots will be huge. There is a guy you can kind of start building around because he's actually having a good season since he came back. And that's our favorite player here, Chase Young.
Mr. Almost.
Mr. Almost actually made the plays. He
He
got the
did.
turnover. He got a turnover last week too. Um, so I mean, to me, you build it's Brian Brzee,
Yep.
Chase Young, um, Sanker, Riley, Kool-Aid. I think those are the guys you can really be building your defense around.
You have to.
Maybe Stutzman, but I'm just saying, that's you're wondering who's going to replace these guys. That's what it looks like. And I think if you bring in a couple veterans too, I think that's where you really, if you can get a veteran nose tackle, a quality veteran nose tackle, and a quality linebacker, because the Jets will probably ship one off again. But a quality veteran linebacker, that can break up a lot of your core of your defense.
Yeah, it really can. And yeah, are any of these Chase Young? Yeah, I fully agree with you, Alan. Chase has been playing extremely well, and I pointed that out too. But he is still not the guy that'll keep quarterbacks and offensive coordinators up at night. But you do have a player, at all three levels: Brzee up front, Chase, and Kool-Aid, Sanker, and Riley. These are building blocks at all three levels. And remember, 2018. You and I knew who he was and loved the signing, but not many average fans knew who Demario Davis was. When they signed him as a second-tier free agent, as the saying goes, from the Jets. And if they can get those kind of players at nose tackle, at linebacker to replace Davis, if Stutzman isn't the guy to do it, and God, they need an edge rusher, and that edge rusher has to come through the draft. You talk about being able to fill. You can get a quality running back, quality receivers through free agency. You're not gonna get a pass rusher. Because nobody lets go of those. You have to get that quarterback and edge rusher are what you have to get in the draft.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I mean, the building blocks are there on defense. I don't know about the leadership yet, though, and it's too early to automatically put that mantle on anyone. But Chase has looked like he's been more vocal lately. On the field, more demonstrative, and not in a bad way. You see him talking to his teammates. You see him just generally more active. On the sidelines, on the field, going to teammate. Is he a Demario Davis type of leader? I highly doubt it. Those guys are rare. But yeah, that's one of the big questions for this defense going forward is when Demario Davis is no longer Demario Davis, who is going to be that next guy? Because leadership, we talked about this the entire Dennis Allen regime. Where's the leadership going to come from? After Cam, after Demario, Breeze was already gone. Where's the leadership now? And the answer was it never showed up.
Yeah, and the Saints get criticized a lot for picking guys who were team captains and leaders and stuff in the draft, but that is what they're doing. They're finding people who will take over in the locker room after these veteran players are gone, and after they've got some experience under their belt. They're going to be the voices in the locker room. And I think that's what it's going to come in the draft. A lot of these guys are going to come in the draft, and I agree with you totally. Barring any dramatic improvement by Tyler Shough, meaning winning games, looking like a franchise kind of quarterback, or a quarterback at least you're going to build around, I expect the Saints to use their top pick to get a quarterback. Probably top of the second round. There'll still be some edge rushers, but they'll probably look for an edge rusher there. And I think if you get a good edge rusher to pair along with Chase Young, I think then you've got something as far as a defense. You've got something to improve the front seven. A linebacker in free agency, you probably can fix your defense fairly quickly to be better than what they are. The nose tackle thing is the thing that's killing me right now, because that's why they've given up so much yardage on the ground. You don't have somebody who just eat up the blocks so the linebackers can make plays. Offense, that's going to be a little bit longer.
Yeah.
And, you got to get a guard in free agency because you don't have enough draft picks to get a guard. Because you're going to end up taking somebody like that in the fourth round. And you still need to get skill players, tight ends, receivers, running backs. Those are the sexy picks anyway. You want a quarterback? Let's get a receiver to go along with him. Let's get a running back he can hand off to. That kind of stuff. Last question of the night, because I know Bob's starting to fade on me.
I'm way past starting to fade.
Yeah. Your thoughts on the defensive end, Rumpf?
He's always been a role player. Yeah, he's played with Brandon Staley back with the Chargers. Rumpf is a high effort guy. The kind of guy you'd like to have at the back end of your roster, to fill in as a spot starter here or there. But that's it. That's what he is. That's what he's always been. That's all I got. Nice player to have, nice player to root for, nice player to interview. But don't think for 1 second that you're building any kind of defense around Rumpf.
And that's the thing, I think, with a lot of these players on this roster that are younger, is you have role players. You've got people you can rotate in, but the longer they're out there, the more the limitations show. And you can only improve that by spending a lot of money in free agency or investing heavily in the draft. And if they nail this draft, and if they can make some key acquisitions in free agency, that's the only way you're going to really see a dramatic difference from this year to next year. Bob, do you have a Bayou Blitz you're going to try and do this week? How do you feel?
Man, I'm going to attempt it. I'm getting back into my regular weekly schedule. Not just with the Bayou Blitz and here, Jordy Haltberg, but also writing, second job, etc. So we plan on being back on the air with the Bayou Blitz tomorrow evening at 8. Assuming that my plague or whatever this virus is doesn't get worse. I'm sure the conversation is going to be more trade fallout. And Brendan and I planned on talking about in the post game Tyler Shough, what we saw from him, what we like, what we dislike, and what we expect to see going forward. So I would think that tomorrow will be primarily a Shough type of show too.
Yeah, I'm hoping for more than 16 minutes of offense possession.
Yeah.
So we have more plays to dissect with Shough. I'm looking forward to seeing this. I mean, we didn't even talk about Carolina because what's to say? I mean,
Right.
It's still going to be up to the Saints whether or not they show up and play well. It's a road game. Carolina, though, is a strange team. Some weeks they look awful, and some weeks they upset somebody, or they just play well enough that they look like they know what the hell they're doing. So I don't know what to make of this game. We'll see what happens come this Sunday. In the meantime, keep our eye on the prize. Looks like Jets Saints will be the tank bowl of all tank bowls. So that's the week before Christmas. That's December 21st. Keep your eye on that game. That game needs to be flexed to Sunday Night Football. We need
it
to
absolutely does. Yeah.
Who can make it worse? Is it Tyler Shough versus Justin Fields? It should be a great one. In the meantime, thank you guys for joining us. Thank you, Bob, for sticking with us the whole time. And we'll see you next time on Under the Dome. Good night, everybody.
Good night.